This is a group, we've called them the News Know-How Group, and they have been sponsored by a grant through the American Library Association to do a project where they are learning how to be wise consumers of the news. And I just wanted to recognize a couple of people tonight and thank you for coming. Mary Monks is here in the back, and she is from the State Library, and she has been heavily involved in the work with this project and has been the email contact person through the entire time, and it's been months worth of time. So, you know, it has been a commitment, not only on her part, but on the part of our students too. And then we also have from our district, we have Jack Kofoot and Tricia Hicks. And of course we have our own staff here, and I appreciate Kyle and Amanda being here. And all of the rest of you who have come here tonight to listen and hear our News Know-How presentation.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hannah Bernhard, and I'm a sophomore at Bishop Garrigan High School.
My name's Hannah Harsha. I'm a sophomore, and I'm homeschooled.
My name is Decorah Hicks, and I'm a senior at Algona Public High School.
And this year, we were involved with the News Know-How project. The first thing we did was go to a workshop in Cedar Rapids. It lasted for 3 days. This is one of our speakers. His name was Peter Adams. He was our main speaker, and he taught us how to be wise consumers of the news and spot mostly fraud. This was another one of our speakers. Her name was Alicia Shepard, and she used to be the ombudsman for National Public Radio. She recently retired from there and is seeking another position. This is a picture of our group, and on the right is, of course, our sponsor librarian, Sonia Harsha. One of the things that we learned while at the workshop was how to use Camtasia, which is a video editing program. And this is a picture of us working on our separate videos. As well as our group, there were groups from Carroll, Decorah, and Sioux Center there. And this is a picture of all of us together at the end of the program. And one of the main things that I learned while we were at the program was how to use Camtasia, which is the video editing program, because I'm not very computer savvy, and so this really helped me.
And one of the things I learned is not to be biased if you go into journalism.
One of the things I learned is how easy it is to manipulate news sources. When I first got there, they asked me if I'd be interested in conducting an interview with them, and so I said sure. I wasn't sure what it was about. And they used that interview to make this video.
What's your name?
Decorah Hicks.
And what are some of your very favorite things in the world?
I've always liked like stainless steel and that sort of thing, so
That's great.
my favorite food is chicken tortellini bake. Cheesy chicken tortellini.
Is that right? Great. That's great, Zach. Now, would you mind if I get back to my questions?
Not really.
Thanks. I appreciate that. So, when I say Romney and Obama, what words come to mind?
Squishy and disgusting.
Oh, okay. You know what? Let me circle back to things you like. Besides stainless steel, what's your favorite topic to pay attention to?
Definitely Kim Kardashian's life and goings on from day to day. About her.
All right. I think that's all I have. Thanks. Thanks, Zach.
My favorite color is metallic blue.
Why metallic?
Just because I like them. always liked like stainless steel and that sort of thing. So like metal blue, I just find more appealing than regular blue.
Okay. What's your favorite food?
My favorite food is chicken tortellini bake, cheesy chicken tortellini.
Okay. And your least favorite?
Tomatoes.
And the string of adjectives you were using to describe tomatoes?
Yeah, it's either come to mind. Well, acidic, squishy, and disgusting.
And then what is a social issue or a social trend or a fad that you just think is completely silly and won't make sense to you?
Like Kim Kardashian's life and the goings on from the day.
As you can see, that was definitely an edited video. And so at the end of the workshop where we learned how to do that kind of thing, we got an assignment. And our assignment was to check up on corrections policies of local and national news organizations. My portion was radio. And the first thing I did was research NPR, which is National Public Radio. National Public Radio is a national news organization with over 900 stations and 25 million listeners. So, of course, they have to have corrections. And how do they deal with corrections? They have an ombudsman who is currently Edward Schumacher Matos. It used to be our speaker, Alicia Shepard, but after an ombudsman has been at an organization, they might not be as objective as they once were, so they have to move. And the job of the ombudsman is to check up on the corrections and make sure that the news organization is doing their job and reporting all the sides of the story accurately. If you would like to submit a correction that you hear at National Public Radio, you can do so online. This is a video of how you can find their webpage and the corrections. First, you type National Public Radio into your Google search engine. After a while, the results will finally come up. Finally. And when they do, you are going to click on the first one, which is National Public Radio. And this will take you to their main website. And when you get to their main website, you will see all their news stories and their current things on the radio. But if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you will find the Contact Us station. To check on the corrections, you can either click on the NPR Ombudsman, or if you would like to submit one, click on Contact Us. And the Contact Us button will take you to their page, and under the email form, one of the fields will be Submit a Correction. After finding out about national news organizations, I did our local radio station, KLGA. And if you listen to KLGA, you know that they are, of course, our radio station, and they do lost pets and that kind of thing, which is a local radio station. But they also do corrections. However, they don't do it like National Public Radio is. To find out how they did it, I contacted Chuck Shockley, who is a person at the radio. After I got an email back from him, he explained that they don't have a set corrections policy, they just deal with them case by case. Because if, for instance, if they publish a story in the morning edition of their program and it's mistaken, they will fix the correction in the afternoon one, but they won't announce the correction because that can damage a radio station's credibility. If you'd like to submit a correction to KLGA, you can phone 515-295-2475 or visit their website, www.algonaradio.com, and under Contact Us, you will find their email addresses. This is a comparison and contrast of National Public Radio and KLGA. National Public Radio has an ombudsman, while KLGA does not. NPR has their corrections policy online, while KLGA goes case by case and doesn't have a set corrections policy. You can ask for a correction at NPR by emailing them under the contact page, And at KLGA, you can ask for a correction by phoning or emailing. And that concludes my portion, radio.
After Hannah's wonderful presentation of the radio's correction policies, we are going to move on to the newspaper's correction policies. First, we're going to start with the Algona Upper Des Moines. That is our local newspaper. They were easy to work with, and what I mean by that, I sent them an email and I left for 2 hours, and then when I came back, they had an email with all my questions answered very completely. Here are some of the questions and answers in the emails. First question was, when the need for a correction is brought to your attention, how long does it take to get the correction in the paper? Their answer was, for online corrections, it is addressed immediately. Print corrections are presented in the next publication. The reason why they say the next publication is because they only publish the newspaper only weekly. Next question. How do you determine where to put the corrections in the paper? The answer was, the correction is always on page A2. Unless it was an obvious error on the front page, then the correction would be on the front page. And our last question is there any follow-up communication with the person who made the request for the corrections? Their answer is, unless there are further concerns, there is no follow-up contact. And so I was very pleased with their answers, and it was very nice working with the Algona newspaper. Here are some of the correction contacts that you can contact to make a request for a correction. Mindy Baker, the editor, 515-295-3535, and Kurt Dahl, the publisher, 800-444-1957. We're going to move on to the Washington Post, and they are the national newspaper, so a lot of people see their newspaper. They were recommended at the News Know-How Conference to have the easiest to find correction policy. I'm going to show you a video on how easy it was. First, you're going to type in thewashingtonpost.com. And it should be the first one on Google Docs to show up. And you're going to click on that. You're going to scroll down to the bottom of the page. And once you get down to the bottom of the page, go to the Contact Us. Help and contact info is what you're going to click on underneath the Contact Us. Once that's all loaded, you should be on the customer care page. And there will be a report a problem box. And underneath report a problem, there will be corrections. You are going to click on corrections. And that should take you directly to the correction procedure to make a request for a correction. I did have a few difficulties on the Washington Post finding their correction policy. I thought I could just type it in the search box, and that's not how it was. I had to search a little bit, and finally I did go to the Contact Us info, and I found it there. And moving on to Zachariah Hicks.
And I did mine on the Des Moines Register. And I'm afraid it did not go as smoothly for me as it did for the other two. At first glance, it looked pretty good because they had 3 different main methods of contact readily available. First was the phone, and that is 877-424-0225. The second option they had readily available was the internet with a Contact Us form to fill out. And the third form was their mailing address, which they had also posted on the internet. So I decided to go ahead and start calling them because I figured that would probably be the easiest method to go about. And so I called them the first time and I asked them if they had a corrections policy. And the guy that I was talking to said, yes, we do have a corrections policy, but I can't help you right now because we got deadlines to meet and don't call in the afternoon. So I said, okay. I'll call again tomorrow. Thank you very much, bye. And so I called again tomorrow, and the next day when I called, they said, we do not have a corrections policy. And I said, well, I'm sorry, but the guy I talked to yesterday just said you did. And she said, we don't. So I said, okay, and said goodbye and hung up. And I decided to call the next day afterwards to see if I got an even different response, just to see what would happen. So I called them up, and I said, do you guys have a corrections policy? Oh, yes, we have a corrections policy. I said, awesome. Could you show me that corrections policy? Is there any way that I could view it? No, we can't help you with that. I'm sorry, we're too busy. Call again later when one of our senior editors is in. I said, well, when will they be in? I don't know. So that wasn't working out so great, and there's kind of a compilation of all the different wonderful replies I got from them. So I figured, well, that's not working out, so I'm going to try to use the Contact Us option on the website because that is what that is exclusively made for, of course. So I typed in the Des Moines Register. And once it has been loaded, you go to the website, which is the first link there. And after it is fully loaded, you start scrolling down. And I'm afraid there's a lot to scroll down through on this page, actually. So. Anyhow, once you finally reach the bottom, there is a Contact Us option under Help. So, of course, you click on that. And then because what I was doing was dealing with the policies, the correction policy to be specific, I selected the news policies category. And I filled out the information, of course, my email, phone, address, city, state, and zip, and then I put in the information I required under the comments page. I told them that we're with the News Literacy Project. We're associated with the American Library Association. I gave them a full background of what we were doing, and that we wanted to see their news corrections policy so we could compare and contrast it to other news corrections policies. And so I thought, all right, this is great, and because then after I click send, a message popped up. We will reply within 1 business day. Thank you for sending this. So I thought, okay. And then I come back the next day and I get on my email and there's nothing there. So I said, okay, well, maybe they weren't correct. Maybe it's going to take a couple business days. So I came back each day and there was nothing there. And unfortunately, to this day, I have still received nothing from that option. So I cannot say how efficient that option is and whether it'll work for you or not, but it didn't for me. So that left me with one other option, and that was we have an advisor. And his name is Daniel Lippman, and he's been involved in the news field for several years. And so I sent an email to him and I explained all the problems I had been going through, that I could just not get an honest answer out of them. And so he was very helpful and he responded, well, here are 3 of the senior editors for the Des Moines Register, and here are the email addresses to use to contact them with. So I thought I was back in the game. So I shot off an email to every single one of those email addresses that he provided. And basically the same thing that I had put into the comments section. I said, we're with the American Library Association, we're doing the News Literacy Project, and we're critiquing news sources. More specifically, we're comparing and contrasting the corrections pages. And I went on to give a little bit more information about them. And so I got on the next day and I couldn't believe it. I had gotten an email back, so I was exuberant. And I opened the email up, and it said, "Thank you for your email. I'm happy to ensure you get a response to this. Generally, we do not get into detailed discussions with anonymous email accounts though, so please provide more information about yourself." I just went through the time to provide a full explanation of what we were and what we did. So I thought, okay, maybe they want names, specific names, because I had provided the name of the association in that, but I hadn't provided my specific name. So I sent another email to him saying, well, I'm Zachariah Hicks, a senior at Algona Public High School, and I provide information about these two that are participating in it also. And I sent that off, and I said, I hope that helps, and if you have any other questions, I'll be glad to answer them. I've still not gotten a reply, and all I know is that I am classified as anonymous. So anyway, it didn't work out very good for me. So after this point, though, our librarian, Mrs. Harsha, decided to try to contact them herself to see if she got any different responses. So she sent an email to Randy Brubaker, who is the same guy that sent the anonymous email. And he replied promptly. I was really surprised. He replied right away. He did a very detailed job explaining and answering her questions. And some of the information he provided us was, the Register strives for accuracy and fairness. Errors in our news columns will be corrected in the section where the article appeared. Readers who believe the paper may have erred may request a correction by calling 515-284-8065. Most often, there's no debating whether correction is needed. For the few occasions when there may be a gray area, we have 3 senior editors. Of course, these 3 senior editors are the ones that I tried to email, but I didn't get a response. But anyway, of which I am one, who would be involved in making those decisions. Corrections appear in the section that the article was originally published in. If there's anything unclear, please let me know. So, I really appreciated that they finally provided this information. But that did bring up the question, at least in my mind, if they have a little bit of bias toward age right there, because they did not respond to me except to tell me I was anonymous, and they responded promptly to an adult. So that is how my experience went, and that ends the first portion of our assignment. Now the second portion of our assignment was to kind of keep tabs on the other 3 groups that we did this with, and then provide a short summary of how things have gone for them. And I did the Carol group, and Hannah Harsha did the other 2 groups. The Carol group's main goal was to check columns and blogs, specifically online, and to check for accuracy to see if there's any errors. Well, surprisingly enough, they didn't find any errors, which is nice in this day and age. So they decided to use this project to present to the City Council and Rotary Club, because they're trying to encourage funding for a new library, because they want to get a library in their section, and they decided that this would be a good example of all the awesome things the library brings to your region. So that's what they're doing with that. And they said that the main thing they learned was to see every aspect of the news, and they would definitely do it again. And I will let Hannah go from there with the other 2.
All right, the Sioux Center group, they were one of the other groups, and what they were doing was check issues for errors. So they started with gun control, checking that, and they were not finding very much. The 2 political candidates, they just stopped talking about it. And then they talked to their advisor some, and their advisor told them they should switch to something different. So they chose Medicare. Once they chose Medicare and switched to that and everything, they got a bunch of information. And they just said it was so much easier after that. They did have some errors though. They had some link errors. And by that, they clicked on the links on the pages they were searching. And what came up were blank pages or not the right source they clicked. So that's all for the Sioux Center group. The Decorah group, what they were doing was checking the misinformation for both candidates and checking for just things that weren't right in it. Why they got involved was because they were both highly interested in the politics, and they had a little bit different views, both of them did, and they just decided it would be a nice thing to try the News Know How project. They also enjoyed it a lot. They told me that it was definitely a good experience and they would do it again. They did have a little bit of trouble contacting the campaign offices because the campaign offices were just giving them the brush off when they were trying to search for information. They did not have to report any errors. That did not mean they didn't have errors. They did have a few, but they were being corrected at the moment. They presented to the Rotary Club, which was 70 people total, and they said they were very impressed. The Rotary Club did say that. And they also presented 9 presentations at their school, and that went very well. They did that in one day. And that concludes our last information. And the 2 others are going to come up and we're going to answer some questions.
So anybody have any questions at all? Yes.
Did any 3 of you, did any of the correction policies outline for you how they verified whether the correction would be right before they made it?
The question was, were there any policies that outlined if they verified? And I didn't find anything.
Neither did I.
I didn't either.
They'll get back to you.
Yes. Is there any others? Yes.
You've done a wonderful job of summarizing your work over the past few months. Could you share with us the kind of the personal take on it? What were some of the most valuable things that you gained from your experiences of being at this project?
The question was, what are our personal experiences and what we gained? I definitely gained a better understanding of how they work with their ethics in newspaper and how they decide what to present. And of course, I also learned computer skills. And I also learned that there's a lot more misinformation in the news than I thought there was originally.
I learned a lot of computer skills actually too. And I definitely thought it was going to be a little bit easier what we took on, correction policies, but it wasn't what I thought it was.
Well, I enjoyed working with Camtasia, but the main reason I went is so that I could learn to better discern a lot of the political ads and that sort of thing going on right now, because that's pretty important, of course, as of a couple days back. On a more cheery note, though, I really want to get a friend and interview him and try to make one of those videos of him. Is there anything else, though?
Thank you all for coming.
I
Oh,
do have a
question?
So when you contacted the Des Moines Register, did you tell them that you had a young person that had been trying and trying?
No, I did not.
Oh.
I went in as a whole new person, but I did tell them I was involved with the News Know-How project. And I did it the exact same way that Zach did. I started with the phone, and the receptionist that answered the phone did give me some information and told me that I could find it printed in their paper how to request a correction, and told me, that it was there in the paper every time. And then I thought, okay, that was some good information. And then I went into the Contact Us page on their website, and I did it exactly like Zach did through the news policies, and it wasn't probably 2 hours before I got that email back.
Now, because his said anonymous, did you put your full name in rather than just saying the News Know-How?
No, they ask for your contact information before you ever get down to that box where you're asking your question. You have to type in your name, you have to type in your email address, and I did use my library address and email address, so I don't know if that made a difference. I identified myself as a librarian.
And the anonymous email I got was actually not from the Contact Us option. The Contact Us option that she used is the one that I never got any response from, and I did put accurate information as far as my name and that sort of thing also.
I don't think it will let you submit it without including that information. I think that was required information. I had a question too. If you could give one piece of advice to those of us who are here about how to be wise consumers of the news, what would it be?
Ignore most of the political ads. Most of it is barely true. Basically, they take a few facts and then they build upon it to show whatever they want to show. If you really want to know what's true or not, then do some actual researching. There's sites out there like factcheck.org that do a thorough job in checking and seeing what is true and what is just, them making it up to make the other guy sound bad.
Definitely get more sources than just one.
I agree with what both of them said, and I would say don't take everything at face value. It might be true, but then again, it might not. Yes.
And while you were working on this, did you share your experiences with any of your peers? Other teens in your community? And if so, kind of what did you say that you were doing, and were they curious at all about it? And the reason I'm asking this question is that Iowa has been invited to apply for a second year of participation in this project. And, I just would like to know what you have to say to other high school students about whether or not you would encourage them to participate.
Well, I definitely did talk to some of my friends, and they sounded interesting, and they thought it was interesting about the stuff that we were doing. Definitely.
I did the same.
I talked to several friends also, and basically I just summed it up by saying they're teaching us to further critique news sources, and that I was having a good time with it, so most of my friends like that idea. Is there anyone else?
I have a question for Hannah Bernhardt. You contacted KLGA here. Did they give you any idea if you said either phone or email is one of those, if you want a correction between the 7 and 8 o'clock news, is there one of those avenues that's better than the other, or are they both immediately responded to?
They said that phone is definitely that, they get that right in the news, like especially birthdays. So if you said your name wrong, and you can get that in before the 2 o'clock one. So phone is probably the better avenue to go with. Any final questions? Thank you all for coming. Oh, wait, somebody else?
I was just going to say, how important do you feel that it is to properly communicate effectively and factual information? How much do you think that matters in the public eye with the consumers that are receiving information from these different entities?
Well, I think it makes a lot of difference, especially to the public, because it's the difference between believing in a lie and believing in the truth. And most people that I know would much rather know what's actually going on instead of being fed what they want to hear.
I agree with what Zach said, but I think that sometimes people don't know that they're being fed lies, and so it should be a main priority of news organizations to tell the facts.
Do any of you remember an example from the workshop of how you were shown false information and what, being fed something that isn't true?
One of the examples that I remember from the workshop of being fed false information was that there was a coal mine collapse in one of the coal mining states, and they reported that the families were alive even though they didn't actually know that.
And there was another one that they said, I believe it was Governor Gifford, and they reported her dead when actually she turned out to live. She just had some serious injuries, but she survived, and it was plastered all over the news that she was dead, and her husband read the news before he found out that she was actually alive, so that really traumatized him.
I would just like to comment as a staff member for Iowa Library Services and all of this project going on. It's made me more aware of how the news is reported, and when there was a shooting in New York City, I had my headphones on in the office and I was watching the news as I was doing my work, and I noticed that one news organization was reporting one thing and one was reporting another. And that really said to me how important what you are learning is for all of us. Before this project started, I might not have picked up on that as quickly as I did. So you've really helped me to be able to do a better job of discerning what's accurate and what isn't.
Well, I'm glad, because that really is our main goal, is not just to take this information in for ourselves, but also to help the common public understand this, which is another reason we're doing this presentation.
Do Do you remember, when they talked about news neighborhoods early in the workshop, in the 3-day workshop? And what some of those neighborhoods were and how that should affect how you look at the news?
I remember that one of the fields was propaganda, which is, of course, some of the campaign ads, and that's where they exaggerate facts, or like war propaganda, where they make it all look good even though most of it isn't. Some other neighborhoods were factual, right? Factual.
And there was another neighborhood that was opinion, and that's like the opinion columns you read in the neighborhood. And of course, those are not factual. Those are the opinion of the person who wrote it, as the name portrays.
The main one I saw was propaganda. That one hit me, so. Any other questions?
You also have, I don't want to stop the questions, but you also have a video that you're going to share with them that you made before you're completely done, so.
Is that on the flash drive?
Yes, continue with questions if there are more questions first.
Just a comment, from an adult perspective, I think you guys have done, I think you've done a professional job. I think you took your job very seriously. And I think that's really neat to see young people take an opportunity like that and be mature about it and present as though they themselves are far advanced in their adult years. So,
Thank you.
congrats to them.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for teaching us, for taking what you've learned in the project and teaching us as members of the community.
Thank you for supporting us and coming to this.